Everybody knows that I've hit the record button. See you, Gary and Diana. So my name is Sharon Whiteman. It's my great pleasure to be here with Diana Hunter and Gary Knapp every week. We love being on this call, as I can see quite a few of our regulars are on, and welcome also to some new people. Fantastic that big acknowledgement to you that you're giving your business and your commitment and partnership to Manatech this time on a Saturday. So, and Carolyn, thank you so much for being with us. I know it took us a while to find the right time, but I feel good that this will be a very powerful morning for people.
Thank you, Sharon, for having me on. It's a pleasure.
Oh, great. So, ladies and gentlemen, we haven't had Carolyn on this call for some time, so I'll just give you a little bit about your background. I know every time Carolyn does a meeting where people that are some of my local colleagues are at, they said they wish they would have had 20 people here. So those of you who are here this morning are definitely in for a treat. Now, Carolyn Jones has been with Manatech since the launch in Australia in October 1998, and Manatech has changed Carolyn's life. At that time, she was debt-burdened with no house or car or any of life's luxuries. Carolyn went from being unable to work as a nurse due to a lack of wellness, with her only income being a disability allowance, to today being truly blessed in all areas. Through the blessings and passions towards Manatech's multiple gifts, Carolyn and her business partner became presidential in 10 months and maintained a presidential income and more for over 19 years now. She is a multi-award winner and a Millionaire Club member. Carolyn believes in the philosophy of sharing the whole gift of Manatech, the unique science, the patented products, and the brilliant rewards program, and sharing the best gift of all, M5M. This has been proven to create the most powerful results for successful leaders in her teams. She has a proven track record of business and income stability that has stood the test of time. With many concepts having come and go in her time, Carolyn's philosophy has never changed and has proved to be a blessing for so many. She enjoys spending quality time with her family, especially her 4 adult children, their spouses, their 8 grandchildren, who are also the future heirs to the legacy she's created by building her Manatech organizations. So, Carolyn, again, thank you very much for being here this morning.
Thanks, Sharon. Yeah, it's a great pleasure to be on the call.
Thank you. So let's go back to the beginning. I can remember those days in the very beginning. And I know that you guys were all there at the first meetings for Manatech in Australia. Were you introduced, and how did you get started?
Well, when I first came to Manatech, I was actually a very unwell person. I certainly didn't have help. And so, it has changed my whole life, because I was one of these people that couldn't get out of bed unless I took painkillers. And I had, first thing in the morning when I woke up, I'd have to reach out for the painkillers. And I'd have to take them and wait 20 minutes and then try and sit up and try and get out of bed. And I actually had hardly any sleep during the night, because I had severe, not only pain from my joints, but I also had spasms, these terrible spasms which would wake me during the night, and they were excruciating. So I had things like severe neuralgia, couldn't even move my head even a quarter of an inch. So I was struggling all night, and then I'd get up and go through this procedure, try and get to the shower, and just letting the hot water run over my joints to just get loosened up enough to get dressed. It was a battle. And then I'd be so exhausted, I'd just go back to bed. And that was basically how I was living day by day. And the first I heard about Manatech, it was the very first meeting before the launch, and I couldn't go, and I was just too sick to even attend it. But I was given a little bag, a Ziploc bag with Ambrotos in it, and another Ziploc bag full of pills and capsules. I didn't even know what they were. I had no clue what they were. The only thing I knew was that it was food. Of course, years later, or not years later, I should say months later, I found out that it was the white powder was Ambrotos, and in the capsules and tablets bag there was Plus, Sport, and Phytolo, because they were the only products we had back then. And I thought, oh, well, I'll take half now and half tomorrow. And it was actually a very large amount I took. And I noticed a difference. The next day when I got up, I didn't have all the pain. And I realise now there was an awful lot of sport in there. and I take sport every day. It's a wonderful product. And I realised that why I just felt so good. It wasn't just the combination of the Ambritose and all the products. That sport really did help me tremendously in the area of pain. And also, I then, went to my first Manatech meeting, and I was able to share my testimony there. But what was amazing was I could actually walk upstairs, and I hadn't been able to walk upstairs. So to be able to walk upstairs was amazing. Okay, so in between that meeting and taking that powder and capsules and tablets, I actually went backwards because I had no product. And then as soon as I got hold of that product, I then realised, yeah, this is actually working. This is definitely working on me. So I was able to go to that meeting in the Manatech office. And then we had the launch. The launch, from when I found out about Manatech to when the launch was on, was about 4 weeks. And in that time, I managed to invite, or have at the launch, because I didn't know them all myself personally, but to have at the launch 350 people.
Holy moly.
And and it was very, very exciting. And people say, well, how did I get 350 people there? It's because every person I asked, I said, bring 10. Not bring 1, I said, bring 10. And they did. And I would ring them and say, have you got your 10 yet? And they were aiming for 10. So I had about 35 people that I invited, and I kept saying, make sure you bring 10. And so I had a room full of people just from promoting it that way. And it's amazing how much, if you really put an effort in, how many people you can have to a meeting. And I'd like to encourage everyone that's coming to the Steve Nugent events that are coming up to make sure you bring 10, because we can fill that room. If everyone aimed at that, I know we could have hundreds of people. It's just a matter of everyone putting in that bit of effort. So I was very, very excited. I didn't even understand the marketing plan. All I knew was we had this amazing product that worked. So people listened to me because I was enthusiastic, I was excited, and I knew nothing. Gary probably remembers me from back then, and he will tell you I didn't know anything. I didn't know much about the products. People would say, well, what should I take? And I'd say all 4, because we only had 4. All 4. Take all 4. That's all. That's all you have to do, is take all 4. And I think we complicate things a lot now. We should be just saying, take the key products. That's what everyone should be taking. So that's how I started out.
Fantastic. Yeah. It's really obvious that excitement is, we'll talk about this again later, but that excitement that you exhibited is so important in that inviting to events steps, isn't it?
It is very, very important.
It's very, if you feel authentically excited, people can just join in with your passion, really.
They do, definitely. Yeah.
So that was at the beginning. And so you really only knew that someone that you trusted got you to try them, and you felt better. And so you dived in there. And so you've gone on now 20 years later. Tell us a bit about your pride and commitment in the Manatech technology. We've got science. We are different in the marketplace, aren't we?
We certainly are. We're very different. And what drew me more and more into Manatech and really, really sticking with Manatech it has always been Manatech's science and their technologies, okay, because no one else has what we have, and no one else has premium quality proprietary ingredients in their products. We do. I have had a look at every company that's come along with every product, because different ones ring me and they say, well, look, this new company's just come out with this XYZ product. What do you think about it? So I actually research it, and I research it so I can tell them just how good Manatech is. And every single product that I have ever researched never ever has come up to the standard of Manatech. Manatech's always been right at the top for me. And I know for those who understand the science, we do have the best. And now with this new Ambrotose, we're light years ahead of everyone else. Yeah, so initially it was actually one of the main things was science that helped me to really have a conviction and passion about building a Manatech business.
And you have a nursing background, Carolyn, so you probably could see even more authenticity in when you're representing the science, because you have quite a deeper understanding of it, don't you?
Yeah, and I love science, so I tend to research a lot, and I do it as a bit of a hobby. I'm always researching not only ingredients, but I also research what other companies are up to. I want to know what our competition is up to. And I remember when goji juice came out, and they had all these claims, every claim that you could ever think of. And, and people fell for that. They fell for it because, a lot of claims were made because of the actual goji fruit. But, what people didn't realise was it was because of the whole fresh goji fruit, not something which is dried and then reconstituted into a drink. And by the time that goes through that process, there was nothing in it except the glucose. So you put on a lot of weight. You might have developed diabetes by having it, but you certainly, didn't do you any good. And I remember when they claimed that there was glyconutrients in there, and I don't know how many products are out there which actually claim there's glyconutrients in there. Now, there probably is, but how much is in there? It's probably minute quantities. And I know, I'm only taking goji juice as an example here. I know when Manatech had a look at it, it was mostly glucose and tiny little bits of sugars in there, the good sugars, these glyconutrients. Compared to our Ambrotose, there's nothing that can compare to it. So, and so over the years, you would have a look at these claims that they're making. Years later, people find out that, oh, that didn't work, and they're on to the next company. And I've seen people go from company to company, product to product, whatever sounds exciting. And I've always, as you know, I've always stuck with Manatech, always, because I do believe that they, 100%, the amount of research that they've done, over $50 million research. What other company has done that? There is no other nutritional company that's put that sort of effort into research and development. Only Manatech. And so I call Manatech the science company for that reason.
Yeah, I think it's quite confronting for people to realize that that's not the standard in the industry. They go and expect products, that we've got a very tight TGA, and they expect these products but there's a lot of wiggle room in the labeling and having to prove efficacy of the final product, isn't there? Yeah,
that's right. Yeah. And Manatech go to great lengths to make sure that we have premium ingredients. And this new Ambrotose, I'm actually very, very excited about because of the premium ingredients in there and proprietary. No one else can have them. And when I discovered about the Manos, for example, with the Dalton's way of measuring it, the Dalton weight measurement from John Dalton, it's called after Don Dalton, 380,000 to 400,000 Daltons in regular Manos that any company can have. But with Manatech, we have 1.6 million Daltons just from that alone, and ours is the only ACE mannan, which is the pure mannan, so we're the only ones that can have that. And other ingredients in there, like the arabinogalactan, there's also a premium arabinogalactan called Ambrogard. and no one else can have that. Okay, that particular one comes from the larch tree, but it has, again, the highest efficacy. No one else can have that sort of ingredient in their product because we have an exclusive agreement on that one ingredient. So many things are going into that one product. Like, for example, now they've got things like the modified citrus pectin. And for those who don't know about that, for us people that have been with Manatech, we actually know all about modified citrus pectin because we had a product once before that had it in there. But if you take an orange or a citrus fruit and cut it open, it has these long strands in there. And our body, if we eat them, can't actually absorb the polysaccharides that are in those strands. They can't. It just goes straight through us. So Manatech had to modify them and open them up and so it gives us access to those polysaccharides. But it's also a cleanser. So Manatech put that in to the Ambritose, but they also put in there this other ingredient, which I'm trying to remember, sodium alginate, which is the brown algae. Okay, now that one actually helps to get rid of heavy metals in the body. And not only heavy metals, but toxins in the body too. So that's been added into the Ambritose. I don't want to steal Steve Nugent's thunder. You need to come and hear all about this. But when I found out that these things are going into that new Ambritose, I was just blown away. I was so excited. And that's why you need to invite people to this next launch of the new Ambritose, the Ambritose Light. Yeah, because it is exciting. People, I believe, whoever you bring will join because it's that convincing. Okay, people need it. So just try and bring as many as you can to hear that.
It's compelling information. So ladies and gentlemen, that for when you're listening, that's going to be in late August 2018, depending on when you're listening to this call. And Carolyn, I know, ladies and gentlemen, we have quite strong regulations on how we share our stories in regards to recovery from wellness. Mm-hmm. And that's appropriate, because we're all different biochemically. But I did want to expand a little bit on your personal story, Carolyn. So I know that, in a Western medicine perspective, you had multiple labels. Like you had all different kinds of diagnosis and labels attached to a multi-systemic situation, didn't you? And there wasn't hope for you, was there?
No. They were actually looking at putting me into a wheelchair. I was struggling to stay out of that wheelchair. I didn't not want to go into a wheelchair. So I was on crutches and trying to do everything. I fell many times. I broke bones, when I fell. But I was determined not to go into the wheelchair. But just before Manatech, I decided that I'd have to because I couldn't go shopping. I couldn't get around. And so you get that way that you realise after a while, well, all I can do is go into that wheelchair just so I can get around. So I didn't have hope. There's been a few times in my life where I didn't have hope. At one point my liver packed it in. Okay, I had liver enzymes that went through the roof, and when I can't tell you the diagnosis, but the worst possible case scenario for your liver is what they told me. Okay, so now today, do I have a problem? No, I don't have a problem today. My liver function tests are completely normal. They can't find these things now, but yeah, before they could on blood tests and scans, MRIs, always get back to front. They could see things. And now, of course, they'll say, oh, you didn't have those conditions, but you just didn't have them before. So my doctors are always very confused about me, very, very confused. And I have a genetic condition, and I think I can mention this because it's genetic. They don't actually say it's a disease. I have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is a connective tissue malfunction, basically. And Ehlers-Danlos syndrome is supposed to cause absolutely horrific things if you have the type that I've got. And you're not supposed to live past 48, apparently. Well, I'm in my 60s now, so, you know, I'm well past my use-by date, and I certainly look a lot better. And I was trying to find people my age that have that same type of Ehlers-Danlos syndrome to talk to, but there isn't. They're not around. There's not many anyway. I can't find them to talk to even. So I realised that I'm very, very fortunate to come across Manatech, because that's what basically gave me wellness, gave me joint movement, and sometimes I do have problems with my joints, you know, and it's usually just a temporary situation. And recently they said, "Oh, Carolyn, you know, as you're aging, you better have all these straps on," and they made me start wearing these straps around my wrists, and they said, "Look, we think you need to strap up your neck," and so forth. And they gave me these things to put on, and I wore them for about a week, and I thought, this is ridiculous, you know, because I don't have all that pain. I don't have all of the things that they think that I should have right now. And they're saying, you know, I should have damage if I don't wear these things. But really, I don't believe that, because I believe that when you can get your cells functioning properly, then it stabilizes joints, and you have movement where you would normally not have movement if you take a nap. And I believe it was Manos, the Manopol, that actually gave me the best result. When Manopol came out, that changed my life. That really made a big, big difference. And that Manopol now is going to be, of course, in our new Ambritose in a higher quantity. So I'm very, very pleased about that one, because I always add, you know, a couple of scoops of Manopol and a couple of scoops of Ambritose every time I take it. And sometimes you need more. And there were times when I had to take a full jar of each. And when I had my liver function problem, I had to take a full jar of each for a little while. And a lot of people think that's way out, but believe me, what would happen if I didn't? Would I be here? You know, and to me, just taking it for a while like that, it didn't take long. Okay, as soon as I realised, and I did not know I needed Manopol as much until that happened. Okay, and as soon as Manopol came out, that's when I took these very large quantities. So, you know, people, if you're out there that aren't getting a result, they really need to up the amount that they're taking. That's the first thing that they should do. But also look at taking GI Pro Balance, okay? Because can I share with you what I've learned about GI Pro Balance?
I'd love to, thank you.
Just amazing things, because people understand why we need these friendly bacteria in our gut. They understand what it does. So many people these days understand about why we need it, but they don't understand really why we need it. Okay, they only understand the superficial reasons, the common reasons, but there are reasons which they've discovered in science which just blow me away. And one of them is our gut. You know, it's very closely related to our brain, and our spinal cord actually has the same amount of nerves in it as our gut. And people don't realize that. They think that our spinal cord has, you know, much, much more. No, they actually have the same amount. But what people don't understand is when we are under stress, as an example, our body produces adrenaline and cortisol, as you know, and it wreaks havoc on our bodies. Well, that adrenaline, 50% of it is actually made in our gut. Okay, it's not just our brain and going through the rest of our body. 50% is released in our gut. Now, that's pretty amazing. That actually came out of I'll tell you the quote for that one. Trends Journal of Microbiology, February 2008. Okay, so if you want to look that up, it's pretty astounding. Okay, and what I'm about to tell you comes out of that journal. So if you have 2 petri dishes and you put a drop of blood in each petri dish, and then you put in some bacteria, some of the unfriendly bacteria that you would commonly find, say E. coli, for example. If we put that in there, it could be something else. It could be salmonella or other bacteria, but just say it's E. coli. Now, in one petri dish, you just do nothing else other than that. The other petri dish, we put in 1 drop of adrenaline. Do you know what it does? Okay, in the first petri dish, nothing happens. The second petri dish where you've added the adrenaline, it's 10,000% growth of that bad bacteria. Okay, now in your gut, can you imagine, that's what happens when you have an overgrowth of bacteria. Okay, so that is the biggest cause. So stress, I believe, is the biggest cause of this overproduction of the bad bacteria. So if we have an overgrowth like that, we need GI probalance, don't we? But we also need ambrotos, because when you take them together, they actually work much better on increasing those good colonies. But what happens is, when adrenaline is there, and you have this basically superbug, don't you? Because they've suddenly gained energy, they're feeding off everything. And what they do is they actually feed off iron. They steal iron from our bodies. And eventually we can develop things like anemia and infection if that keeps going. But what happens then, they hide. They form these colonies, and I call them bomb shelters. Okay, and they're biofilms, and they form these bomb shelters. And I know many people that know about Lyme disease, for example, know about these bomb shelters, because, you know, the antibiotics can't get in, they can't penetrate into these bomb shelters. Some scientists have actually said that there's 95% of that bacteria are hidden in these bomb shelters. But it's very interesting. Okay, so the adrenaline is what makes that happen, and not having enough good bacteria. But the interesting thing is to break that up. How do we break that up? Well, ambrotos, through cell-to-cell communication, can identify that they're hiding there. That's number one. But, you know, there's a product that another product I'm blown away about is Immunostar. Immunostar, along with ambrotos, helps our cells to break up that colony, so that our bacteria can be destroyed by the cells. Okay, so that's another reason why we need to take Immunostar if we have any problems like this. But most of us don't realise that that's everyone. Every single person has stress. You only need one stressful day and to have a sudden release of adrenaline, and you have this proliferation of bad bacteria in there. So I realised, wow, this is amazing. But one other thing I discovered was, when this happens, it actually makes you put on weight. And, you know, a lot of people say, oh, I've been under stress and now I'm putting all this weight on. Well, that's why. That's why you're putting on weight. And they know from doing mouse studies, and in the USA, the researchers did mice studies, and they actually got twin human beings, I'm talking about now. So we've got mice and twins, and one twin was lean and the other twin was obese. And they actually got the feces or the poop from each of those twins and fed it to mice where their guts were sterilised. And that sounds awful, doesn't it? But mice do eat poop. They eat their own poop, and they eat their other mice's poop. So eating humans, they don't, you know, they just do it. And what happened was the mouse that ate the obese twins' poop put on weight, and the one that ate the lean twin twins didn't put on any weight at all. Okay, so they realised there's a connection here, and they realised the connection was from gut bacteria. Okay, and they realised that the twin who was obese didn't have very many good bacteria and had all the bad guys basically in the gut. So what they then did was they put the mice together in the same cage, and because they're eating each other's poop, they're seeding each other, and the one that was obese went back to being normal. So they realised there's a direct correlation between
gut bacteria.
our gut bacteria and being obese. They took those studies further, and Robin Sully told me that they're now doing that with humans. They're actually getting poop from skinny people and putting them into, they're transplanted in, and apparently that actually works. But I believe if we take a lot of ambrotodes and GI probe balance, we'll have that same effect if we take enough. And I can't emphasise that enough, because some people need to take 3 sachets a day at first, sometimes more, and a lot of ambrotodes at first to recolonise their gut. And we do now know that there's a lot of things that kill off that bacteria that people don't even realise. They think it's just drugs like antibiotics. It's not. It gets into our food chain. So, for example, in cattle feed, quite often there's in cattle feed they have hormones, and they eat this, but the hormones aren't coming directly from an antibiotic. They're coming because the same bacteria that's been used to create the antibiotics is also used in GMO foods, and particularly the Roundup Ready crops. And so we have an indirect correlation there. But a lot of research has been done on Roundup Ready crops, and because we have a lot of the glyphosate, I think it's called, get into the food. And there's a lady, and her name is Stephanie. I'm just trying to think of her surname. It'll come to me in a minute. I can't think of her surname, but if you want to know her surname, I can give it to you later. And this lady is a PhD scientist, and there is a quote of hers which I'm trying to remember, but this quote is basically saying that she predicted by 2025 that 1 in 2 children will have autism. And that's because there's a correlation between our gut bacteria and our gut bacteria being killed off from eating Roundup Ready crops. Okay, so there is a direct correlation between that. But if we feed our gut the right bacteria to correct that, then we're going to have fewer children that go on to develop autism. Okay, so
there's so much emerging science now. Well, actually, emerging really is the last 20 years, isn't it? Because it takes a long time from science discoveries to end up in the doctor's advice. But there's a lot of emerging evidence for the connection between brain health and gut health, and you can't have health of either one without both of them being healthy.
That's exactly right. And there is that amazing correlation. And mood, we know that just mood alone, so if you're anxious, depressed, can't sleep, and so forth, there is that same correlation there. It affects our brain, and our brain it works both ways actually. So if you want to sleep better and have better mood, then you do need to have the right gut flora. And so many things are killing it off, okay? And before I came to Mannatech, I was taking a lot of colloidal silver and going downhill. I had the worst case of candida, and someone told me if you take colloidal silver, it kills everything, And so I thought, and they say it kills bacteria, so I thought, okay, it should be killing all this bad bacteria. But in actual fact, it doesn't. It actually makes it grow. Things like hydrogen peroxide make it grow, chlorine, fluoride, all those things make it grow. Iodine, some people were even taking iodine. Even if you take tea tree oil internally, it can make it grow. Okay, so people don't understand this. Tea tree oil is wonderful. I'm not saying it's not wonderful, but you should be using it through your humidifier. What do we call those things?
Vaporizer.
Vaporizer, that's the word.
Yeah.
Vaporizer. We should be using it through our vaporizer and breathing it in. We should not be using it internally for that reason, because it's killing off that good gut bacteria and allowing the bad guys to take over. I like to look at our gut as like barbed wire. Okay, so our gut, if you can imagine a piece of barbed wire, it's put up there for protection, keeps the bad guys out and keeps the good guys in, kind of thing. But what happens is, if we get a gateway in that barbed wire, the bacteria, the bad bacteria, can go straight through and can get in. But if we have a strong enough gateway put up, barbed wire, I should say, put up, and you can imagine the little things along the little spikes along the barbed wire, bacteria will come and they attach themselves to that, and then overnight, or very quickly, a cell comes along, recognises it, if it has enough ambrotos there for cell-to-cell communication, and will destroy that bacteria. And then bacteria, when it dies, it quite often has a toxin release. If we have enough antioxidants present, that's why we need AO, it takes that toxin out. And now that we've got, a detoxifier in ambrotos, that also will help to remove it. Okay, but if we have a hole, a gap there, caused from having too much bad bacteria, it just goes straight through, and that release of toxins happens inside our bodies and starts to cause terrible, terrible irritation in our body and lots of damage to our bodies internally. So that's another reason why we need to make sure that we're always taking the GI Pro and ambrotos together. And I think everyone, I can't stress that enough, should be taking those two products together all the time. If you understand that one fact, you would never come off those two products. That's for sure.
So I think, both of us with a nursing background, it's really passionate. Please know that you don't need to have this level of knowledge. That what we're demonstrating here is that it doesn't matter what the label is. I believe that these nutrients going out at a foundational level, it's not only I believe, it's also my experience, and as you can hear, Carolyns as well, that these foundational nutrition can assist your body in having the highest possible wellness, no matter what the picture looks like. So, but I agree. The second part of the equation is personal commitment and determination, and also an investment. It is a financial investment as well to take this in a choice, but I've never regretted it for myself or my whole family now for 20 years, like you, Carolyn. It is absolute. I think everybody in the whole planet should have ambrotos. So it's so good that people like yourselves are so skilled at educating others, that they can, they may have hope in a dark situation, or just have the best possible wellness. There's a lot of well people that need this too, isn't it?
Absolutely. Every well person, are they really well? That's the other thing. They probably are not. They're probably full of toxins, and over time that will catch up with them, I believe. So they need to be taking it now while they are well, or feel well at least. Yeah.
I ran into someone yesterday, and quite a close friend of ours, but through kids being little and stuff, we haven't seen as much. Long story short, she's an ex-elite athlete, really healthy eater, super committed, organic, fresh, and really great cook. Just diagnosed with a really serious, sort of antioxidant kind of cancer type problem. And, it's so wrong that in the fitness industry, it's only recently, previously people thought, if you exercised and you ate well, that's enough. But the world's changed, hasn't it, Carolyn?
It certainly has. The world's changed. If you remember back 30, 40 years ago, for those of us who are older, of course, we didn't hear about all these conditions. It was rare to have a cancer or rare to have a severe arthritis, especially rheumatoid arthritis. It was rare. Things like lupus, we just very rarely came across. But now, today, all these things are so common. Diabetes is just very, very common. And I remember it was rare when I was nursing, the same as you too. We know that it was rare. We tested everyone's sugar, and if someone had a high sugar level, oh, this poor person. And now it's everyone. And so the doctors tend to become very blasé about diabetes. And they don't look at it in the same light as they did 20, 30 years ago. They looked at it much more seriously 20, 30 years ago because
It's
they knew.
normal, isn't it? Yeah, people just expect it now.
Yeah, they do. They think it's almost normal to have high sugar levels and high cholesterol. I think it's normal when it's not. It's not normal. And that's another reason we need Ambrotose and GI Pro Balance, because that can affect our sugar levels if we don't have cell-to-cell communication.
Absolutely. So Carolyn, obviously we're both very passionate about our technology and proud to represent it. Like I feel as proud today as I did 20 years ago to tell somebody else about what we have. So I know as part of the big picture, you find the financial opportunity in the partnership with Manatech equally as valuable as, this amazing, extraordinary wellness technology. So tell us about your passion in regards to that. You never tell anybody about us without telling the whole story, do you?
That's right, I do. You will never, ever find that I just tell people about the products, ever. I do tell them about those. And I found if you don't, people don't understand how they can have the products for free. I say free, but really they're being compensated for sharing this with other people. If you share this with other people, you do get rewarded and the products become free. So if you don't share the whole story, people might think, oh, well, I can't afford these products. And they might eventually come off it. So, but if you share the whole story, they're more likely to stay on. And another thing which happens quite frequently, I believe, is people try and tell everything to everyone straight away as soon as they start a conversation. And don't do that. I never tell anyone about Manatech. Okay, and I know that sounds weird, but I don't tell them anything. If they say, what are you doing lately? Oh, look, can I come around and share with you, maybe for an hour, and I'd love to share with what I do. And they'll say, well, what is it that you do? Oh, well, I'd love to tell you everything, and it's going to take about an hour. So is that okay if I come around for an hour? I make the appointment to see them. I don't ever answer any of their questions. If they say, is it involving a product? People that know me in particular know I'm into products, and over the years, so they might actually assume that it's a product. But if they did assume it was a product and they said, well, is it a product? Look, I'll tell you this one thing, and that is it's to do with glyconutrients, if they really ask that question. And then they'll say, well, what's glyconutrients? Well, that's why I need to come around and share this with you. It takes a while to explain. I don't want to tell them anything, because if I tell them a little bit, I can blow them away. And that's very important. A little bit of knowledge can blow someone away because of preconceived ideas. And if they say, well, how much is the product? Again, I don't tell them. I say, look, I'll explain everything when I see you. Okay, why is that? Because I want to show them how to get their products for free. And I'm not going to say that to them up front, because then they think there's some sort of scam or something. You need to tell them slowly what this is all about, and make that appointment. Go and see them and share properly with them everything, and then they're more likely to share this with others if you do it that way. If you don't do it that way, what happens is you lose them. You're losing a lot of people. If you don't invite them the right way, you can lose someone. Like when you're inviting someone to come and hear Steve Nugent, Don't tell them everything. Don't say, oh, look, I've come across this product and it's so exciting and it does this and it does that, and please come and hear Dr. Steve Nugent, he's this and that and everything. If you tell them too much, they won't come. Okay, so what you need to do is say, look, we've got this doctor, he's going to be educating us on wellness, and we've got this thing called glyconutrients, and we'd love for you to come and listen to him. It's very exciting, it's revolutionary. You need to be there. Say things like that, but don't try and explain everything. I think that's very, very important.
So Carolyn, if you're sitting in front of somebody who was referred to you or that you met that has a health challenge or is looking at improving their wellness on whatever level, so you talk about the technology, how do you tell them about, obviously our new plan is quite different in regards to giving someone a goal to get free products. So number one, how do you introduce it, that about the money? And number two, what do you recommend when you're saying to someone that, to help you get your products compensated for or discounted?
Okay, well, first of all, I take them through a presentation, and I still believe in doing presentations. And if you don't know how to do a presentation, you need to get to, to talk to your support team leader to learn how to do one. Because I think that's the key. If you learn how to do a presentation, and it can be as easy as showing someone a few videos, okay, and then sitting down with them and sharing how to create an income. So I do take them through things like what it means to be an associate and a customer, because they're going to be choosing between the two. Now, every person I speak to, I actually assume they're going to be a business builder. Most people assume they're going to be a customer. I can tell you that now. I can tell you right now that that's what most people believe in their minds. That this person I'm talking to is not going to be interested in building the business. They're going to be a customer. So what do you end up with? You end up with all customers, and you don't end up with any business builders if you have that attitude yourself. So I pretend that every single person is going to be a business builder unless they prove me otherwise. Okay, so if they say, look, Carolyn, I just want to be a customer, okay, that's good. And I leave it at that, but I pretend that they are. So I share everything with them. I make a time where I can sit down and explain to them how we work as a team. I share with them how we form teams and so forth, as well as showing very, very simply how we arrive to the income. And there is a way I actually take them through to show them how to achieve income. And different leaders have obviously different methods of sharing this with others. So I have a particular way of sharing it with people, and it works. It works if you share it with them. But I also believe in following up. I don't actually try and sign someone up on the same day that I share with them. Now, if they say, look, I want to join, I'm so excited, I want to join right now, of course you're going to sign them up. But quite often, they don't say anything, or they're not, they're being a bit reserved. Don't ever think that they're saying no. I think that's very, very important at that point. Don't ever think that. What I do is I make an appointment with them. I say, look, I'm going to leave you with a bit of information. I'd like you to think about what we've said today, and I'd like to make a time to come back and answer any questions that you might have. And I sit down, and they have objections quite often. See, and that might be, they need that answered before they actually feel comfortable enough to join. And usually there's one thing, and you have to get to the bottom of that one thing. So you ask them a few questions to find out what that one thing is that's holding them back. And so you ask them, tell me how you're feeling about things. Now, they'll not usually come out straight away and tell you what that one thing is. So you might have to ask 3 times, well, is there anything else? Is there anything else? Any other questions? And you literally have to drag it out of them, because eventually they will get to that if you talk to them long enough. So I usually go through different things with them and find out where they're at, what their objections are. And usually once they've had those objections answered, they then want to join. They actually ask you. I actually even start setting their goals for them before they've joined, before they've even told me they're going to join, because remember, I'm assuming that they're going to be a business builder. Okay, so that's in my mind. I'm assuming that. So I say, look, what we do is we work together as a team, and you know, we help people achieve their goals. And I have a dream. And by the way, if you don't have a new dream, a fresh dream, you should get one. Okay, so if it's 2 years old, it's too old. You need to update it. You need to find out, for example, if you want a new home, you need to go and have a look at some new homes, because that home that you imagined back 2 years ago is now 2 years old, isn't it? It's no longer a fresh dream. So you need something new. So I tell people what my dreams are. I tell them how many children I want to help to feed through M5M. That's one of my big dreams, the amount of children that I want to feed. And I ask them, do you have a dream? And when would you like to see that dream fulfilled? And this is what you need to do with Manatech to fulfill that dream. This is before they've even joined, and this is before they've even said, yes, I want to build. This is before, because they haven't said, no, I just want to be a customer. They haven't said that. So because I assume that, they quite often then do go on to build a business. Yeah, so that's the process I take them through. I make sure that they write out a list of names too. And that's before they've joined. And I know that might sound funny to a lot of people, because they think they have to join before you have to ask them about the list of names. But I actually say to the person, you know, who else do you know that might be interested? And I find out from them, because if they're answering those sort of questions, you know they're interested in building a business. You get clues from them. And, you know, can I help you write out a list of names of people to contact? We'll start talking about these things. And they'll soon say, no, I don't want to do that. But if you pretend that they're going to be a business builder and do it that way, they quite often do. And the funny thing is, even if they don't join, you say, look, you told me so-and-so would be interested. Do you think you could give me their phone number and I'll call them for you? And I call that person for them on many a times I've done this. And if they say they're going to join, I then go back to that person and say, look, your friend's joining. Do you want to join first? And then I can put this friend into your team. So I do it backwards, work backwards that way. And I keep if people do write out a list, I keep that list. I have a copy of that list, because wherever I go, if I know they've got people in those areas, I can ring them and say, look, I know you've got so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so on your list that lives in Canberra. I'm going there. So would you like to phone them and invite them to come to that presentation I'm doing over there? So that way, it's always, you're working with the person, you know what they want and need, and you're helping them in all sorts of different ways. Yeah, so...
and from the beginning, you've already, established what's really important to them. And it looks like they're going to feel very comfortable in knowing that they're not doing it on their own, that it's a true partnership.
Exactly. It's a partnership, working together. And it makes them feel good, actually, if you do that. They feel part of it already. And that can even be a reason why they join. And also telling them about incentives. I found that really, really works. I can remember my family were fairly keen on Manatech as far as the products were concerned, but they weren't that keen to go out and share in a big way. And one of the incentives that came along was the Alaskan cruise. And I remember my father's passed on now, but when he was alive, he found out about the Alaskan cruise. And I have never, ever seen my father work so hard in all my life. And my children, four of my children won the Alaskan cruise, and my father. And so we went on that cruise together. And I just had so many people win it. It was absolutely amazing. I shouldn't say win it, we achieved it. That's a better way of saying it, isn't it? Because you don't actually win it, you work for it. And my father had never left the country. So for me, that was very, very exciting. I quite often tell people about that. It was very, very exciting to be able to take my family with me. But the thing is, it was that incentive that inspired them to actually get out and do something. So when an incentive comes along, you know, it's good to tell them about this. And it can sometimes be the thing that makes them want to join. I remember having a lady, I think she was 79, I think she was close to being 80, and had no interest in building. But when we told her about the incentive, we couldn't stop her. She wanted to go on that incentive, and she went on to be an executive director. So, you know, things like that do propel people. And I've never seen my father work so hard in all my life. And it was wonderful to be able to take him.
And it's very, I can't believe it, Carolyn. I just glanced at the clock and there's 1 minute. The time's flown so fast. I have about 6 or 7 other questions I wanted to ask you. Obviously, this has to be a 2-part, Carolyn. That means you have to come back.
I'd love to come back. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. There is another question specifically, though. So if someone is thinking about talking to someone who has an unwell child and they're looking at, you know, using nutrition as part of that, how would you, in that situation, bring up the business for that parent?
Okay, so depending on if this is one of my associates' people, is this a new person that knows nothing about Manatech?
Yes.
I'm assuming that. Okay, well, first of all, I wouldn't tell them anything. Okay, so sometimes associates say, look, can you talk to so-and-so about the products? Well, I do for them, but if they listen to me and they're actually doing and duplicating me, which I hope they are, I hope that they've already got an appointment, or they've already made plans to see them, or have actually shown them a presentation first. Because that's what should happen. They shouldn't actually be told anything until they've seen a presentation. Then we can talk to them about what is good for that child to take. Is that what you mean? Is that answering the question?
Yeah, and then to me, I would assume from what you said so far, in regards to establishing education about the business, it would be about the questions that happen at the time and helping them understand affordability.
Yeah, well, see, that's the thing. When you're sharing the whole story of Manatech, you are showing them how they can afford it. Okay, just by sharing with a few people. If you share with a few people, you can afford this. Okay, and if you do that, you teach everyone the same thing so that they can afford it, they'll stay on the products and they will actually share more and more. I know people, for example, that are using this next Steve Nugent event to bring people to, but they try and make an appointment with them first to share everything with them, the whole story of Manatech first, before they bring them. And I think that's a better way of doing it than just show up at the Steve Nugent event, because they're going to think, well, how can I afford that? That's the first thing that you have to overcome. Whereas if you do it the other way around, you've got far more success of them actually doing something and bringing someone too. So, you know, most people I'd be encouraging to share the whole story of Manatech with those first that you're going to invite, and get them to bring someone.
And so then they'd be self-selecting that an associate account would be better for them, and then you'd send them down the team qualified, AQ qualified team bonus. Was that what you'd aim them for?
Yeah, I actually share a little bit probably differently from a lot of other people. I do show them about team qualified. You know, I do share that with them, and I share, you know, if you find 5 customers, you're getting $95, and if we build a team around them, you're getting $480. I do share that with them, but that's not my main focus. Okay, that is definitely not my main focus. And so a lot of people from other teams, that is their main focus. Okay, so I think it's depends on the way you're building and sharing as to whether you would focus on that one or not.
Yeah.
I still focus on team building. Okay, I still focus on that, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I place everyone within a team. Okay, I do also build across ways, because with the new compensation plan, you need to try and have people up close to you, but you don't need hundreds up close to make this work. You just need a few key people up close to you to make this work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So Carolyn, we've gone a little bit over time, and we may have to, I've got a whole bunch more questions here. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we'll have to create another time to answer more questions. But in completion, I know, you've mentioned that you want to, one of your big goals is how many children you want to feed through the M5M program.
Yeah.
What's in your heart to leave people with today that you'd like to share with them about their partnership with Manatech?
Yeah, well, I have a very big goal with Manatech, with M5M. And it's, for a lot of people, they think it's way over the top, but for me, it's not. I believe it's fully achievable. And that is 250,000 children being fed with my team's efforts. Okay, that's what I want to see. That's my goal. And I know that if we all work together on this mission, because I believe it's a mission, then we can achieve that. And it's a matter of just everybody sharing and everyone contributing to be able to do that. Yeah. So, yes. Sorry, I probably.
And where do you see it? Where do you see us going in partnership with Manatech in the next 5 years? What's possible for them if they really grab this and run with it?
Okay, I can see many, many presidentials coming out of Manatech in the next 5 years. I can see Crown ambassadors coming out of Manatech in the next 5 years. And I actually believe that I will have people in my team reach that level. That's how confident I am. And a lot of people think that that's way out of the top, way over the top to even think about that. Well, if you think that, then you're probably not going to achieve it. Okay, I believe that you can achieve it, and I believe that if we build using the new methods of building, we can get there. We just have to be enthusiastic, continually inviting people, getting them to write out their list, setting their goals. And it's really, really important actually, because, I have this saying, everyone has this saying, but they don't realise it's my saying every day, is out of sight, out of mind. Out of sight, out of mind, what does that mean? If you don't write something down, if you don't write your goal down and put a date to it, a goal is a dream with a date. Okay, that's exactly what it is. If you don't write it down and put a date on it, then you're very unlikely to achieve it. So I believe if everyone sets their goals, put it in their mind, put it in their sight every day, then we can all together combine, achieve amazing things and put Australia on the map, and Singapore and New Zealand on the map, our region on the map. Okay, I believe it's a combined effort that we have to do these things. We have to believe it, and we have to be excited about it to make it happen. So if I was you, if I was the person watching this right now, I'd be just inviting as many people as you could to Steve Nugent, doing as many presentations beforehand as you could. Even if it's a few people, it doesn't matter. You have to start out somewhere. And remember, we all started out with just a few. So don't look at small numbers of, this is not big. But you start out small. But if you start out with nothing and don't bring anyone other than yourself, then you're not achieving anything. You're never going to get ahead. Yeah.
So we've never harmed a soul by sharing the gift of Manatech, and thousands, hundreds of thousands could be blessed if you really go for it. So Carolyn, thank you so much. I will, with your permission, reach out for a Q&A one with you, because there's still a whole list of people wanting to ask things. So, and the great thing about our community is that there's all kinds of different styles, isn't there, Caroline? You know, I had a meeting, a Mantech meeting with some colleagues yesterday, and I was saying there's no way that my single person that introduced me could have got me to the level of engagement I have with Mantech. It's about hearing different people's stories and different people's styles. And I was so skeptical that I needed to hear from 100 people. And then I'm hooked, like I'm absolutely hooked with the authenticity and integrity of Mantech. So I really appreciate you sharing your heart with us this morning.
Yeah, and I'll be thrilled to have as many questions. So keep asking questions.
Okay,
yeah.
well, I'll email you and we can set up a part 2 date. And thank you so much, Carolyn. Have a great day. And I don't know who's on for next week yet, but I'll communicate with everybody. Watch the Facebook page and the emails. Carolyn, thank you so much.
Pleasure. Thank you, Sharon.
Have a great day, everyone.
Okay.